Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's reading. And chapter we are reading for today is this is reduction of pessimism. Optimism sounds like a sales speech. Pessimism sounds like someone trying to help you. Like, wait, before we even dive into the topic, which is true, like what this chapter is trying to tell us is this reduction of pessimism. Like when someone is being pessimist, when you see someone being pessimist, you are seduced by it. Like you feel like, yes, this is the right. Pessimism sounds like someone trying to help you. When you see someone being optimist, you feel like they are pitching a sales to you. Like it sounds like a sales pitch, which is what brings me to the question: why do people like? Are we wired like that generally? Why are human beings like that? Like why do we tend to believe more in the bad than the good? Like why do we tend to sway more to the left than the right? Is it the way our brain is wired, or is it just I don't know? Like, is it our environment? Is it the way we're brought up? Is it what we believe in? Because I don't. This is about book, and this is about money that the author is talking about. I'm very sure whatever story he's telling us in this chapter will ultimately be, you know, related with money. But looking at life generally, also, you would, if you think about it, you'll find that people much more believe in someone who is being pessimist than someone who is being optimist. They see someone who is optimist as the bad guy. Yeah, let me put it that way. They see someone who is optimist as the bad guy here, and someone who is pessimist as the good guy. So why? It applies in all aspects of life. Okay, I for example, no, don't let me use myself as the example. Let me say, like, if we hear a news about a celebrity or anyone at all, if you hear something bad about them, why is it that as human beings, we just tend to like go to be like, why would she do that kind of thing? Why would you do that kind of thing? Oh, I always knew it was that kind of person. I always knew she was that kind of person. Like, why are we like that? Why is it that we don't give people the benefit of the doubt? Like, no, this can happen. I know some people do that, but those people that do that are people that are already trained. Like, they train themselves. Like, no, I don't want to be this kind of person that only sees the bad in people. I'm this kind of, it takes a special person to actually sit back and ask questions and be like, why is it like this? What led to this? What led to this person doing this? Is it possible for this person to do this? It takes a special kind of person to sit back and actually ask those questions. Majority tend to just believe in the bad side. If you hear news of, okay, oh, this celebrity achieved this milestone, or this particular person achieved this milestone, it's okay. Let's say for now, for example, there is this news, and this news, a news of, okay, this person achieved a particular milestone, and there is this person, and another news of this person ruined a particular milestone that would have been achieved by, if it wasn't ruined by that person. Let's say a football game. Okay, we hear that, okay, this person was the person that supported to win, and we hear that, okay, this person that's the one that's made the team lose. Look at it on both sides. Which news do you think will trend more? Like, people will keep on talking about the one that made them lose. They'll keep on sharing it. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know. We human beings, but I think I hope the chapter you're about to read changes that perspective in us, that perception. It changes it in us. Even though the focus here will be on money, I'm very sure we can apply it to all aspects of our lives. So let's read. Let's dive into the psychology of money, chapter 17, the seduction of pessimism. Yeah, before I now start, what is optimism to you? Like, what is optimism to you? You can answer that to yourself. But now, there is this quote I want to read out by historian Delder McCloskey. For reasons I have never understood, people like to hear that the world is going to hell. Okay, for reasons I've never understood, people like to hear that the world is going to hell. If a historian like this does not understand the reason, then I think we are all clueless. Optimism is the best base for most people because the world tends to get better for most people most of the time. But pessimism holds a special place in our hearts. No, it doesn't hold a special place in my heart because I have always been trying. I've always been trying as much as possible to always be optimistic in all situations. I've always tried my best to always be optimistic in all situations. No, I'm not a pessimist. I can't say whenever I'm doing something also I don't think of, oh, what if it goes south? What if I think that's why generally we have plan B, just because we're wired like that, maybe. So pessimism isn't just more common than optimism. It also sounds smarter. Yeah, when you hear someone saying, this thing you are doing, eh? This thing you are doing, eh? I just pray it doesn't end in premium tears. Oh. You'll be like, oh my god, is this person wiser than me? But when you see someone say, oh, wow, keep on, you're doing it well. Of course, we'll feel good, but there's still something I'll be like, are you sure? So it is intellectually captivating and it is paid more attention than optimism, which is often viewed as being oblivious to risk. Before we go further, we should define what optimism is. Real optimists don't believe that everything will be great. That's complacency. Optimism is a belief that the odds of a good outcome are in your favor over time, even when there will be setbacks along the way. Exactly what I said, like plan B. You know that, okay, this thing I'm very sure to work out, but I just want to have a plan B. Just like the wise investors that we've read back in the book, where you know that, okay, I want to invest in this, but no, you're not putting all your money that when you lose it, you're actually going to be dead. Uh, It's not like you don't believe in your skills or you don't believe in yourself. It's just about being careful and about being calculative with your risk. You take calculated risk, not just anyhow risk. So the simple idea that most people wake up in the morning trying to make things a little better and more productive than wake up looking to cause trouble is the foundation of optimism. It is not complicated, it is not guaranteed either. It's just the most reasonable bet for most people most of the time. The late statistician Hans Rosling put it differently. I am not an optimist, I am a very serious possibilist. Now we can discuss optimism's more compelling sibling, which is pessimism. December 29, 2008, the worst year for the economy in modern history is about to close. Stock markets around the world had collapsed, the global financial system was on day-to-day life support, unemployment was surging. As things looked like they couldn't get worse, the Wall Street Journal published a story arguing we hadn't seen anything yet. It ran a front page article on the outlook of a Russian professor named Igor Panarin, whose economic views rival the flair of science fiction writers. The journal wrote, around the end of June 2010 or early July, Panarin says the US will break into six pieces, with Alaska reverting to Russian control. California will form the nucleus of what he calls the Californian Republic and will be part of China or under Chinese influence. Texas will be part of the heart of the Texas Republic, a cluster of states that will go to Mexico or fall under Mexican influence. Washington, D.C. and New York will be part of an Atlantic America that may join the European Union. Canada will grab a group of northern states Professor Panarin calls the Central North American Republic. Hawaii, he suggests, will be a protectorate of Japan or China, and Alaska will be subsumed into Russia. This was not the ramblings of a backroom blog or tinfoil hat newsletter. This was on the front page of the most prestigious financial newspaper in the world. That's bad. It is fine to be pessimistic about the economy. It's even okay to be apocalyptic. Normally, the way people used to talk about Nigeria, like, okay, Nigeria. But thinking of a high person, like one that is well respected in the economy, in the country, now publishing it on the front page of Punch newspaper that Nigeria can never be great or Nigeria is going to be divided. No. You can't do that. It's not done. History is full of examples of countries experiencing not just recessions but disintegrations. The interesting thing about Panarin type stories is that they are polar opposites. Forecasts of outrageous optimism are rarely taken as serious as prophets of doom. I can imagine someone coming out to come and say, Nigeria is going to be better. Nigeria will be great again on the front page of a national newspaper. Well, I'm sure people just keep on turning the page without even bothering to go past the first line. So take Japan in the 1940s, for example. The nation was gutted by defeat from World War II in every way, economically, industrially, culturally, socially, in every way. A brutal winter in 1946 caused a famine that limited food to less than 800 calories per person per day. Imagine if a Japanese academic had written in a newspaper article during this time that said, chin up everyone, within our lifetime, our economy will grow to 15 times the size it was before the end of the war. Our life expectancy will nearly double. Our stock market will produce returns like any country in history has rarely seen. We will go more than 40 years without ever seeing unemployment top 6%. We will become a world leader in electronic innovation and corporate managerial systems. Before long, we will be so rich that we will own some of the most prized real estate in the United States. Americans, by the way, will be our closest ally and will try to copy our economic rights. They would have been summarily laughed out of the room and asked to seek a medical Evaluation. Keep in mind the description above is what actually happened in Japan in the generation after the war, but the mirror opposite of Panama looks absurd in a way a forecast of doom doesn't. Pessimism just sounds smarter and more plausible than optimism. Maybe it's the way the universe has designed it. Tell someone that everything will be great and they are likely to either shrug you off or offer a skeptical eye. Tell someone they are in danger and you have their undivided attention. If a smart person tells me they have a stock pick that's going to rise tenfold in the next year, I will immediately write them off as full of nonsense. Not in this world that we are now, I don't think. Because if someone tells me, oh my God, I can see you being a leader in the next 5 years, I will gladly accept it and be like, yes, manifest it. I manifest it. And manifest it. Okay. I will immensely write them off as full of nonsense. If someone who is full of nonsense tells me that a stock I own is about to collapse because it is an accounting fraud, I will clear my calendar and listen to their every word. Will I do that? No, I won't. I'll say God forbid and I'll hope for the best. I don't know. Maybe because I'm reading this, that's why. But then I'll say God forbid and hope for the best. So we will have a big recession and newspapers will call you. Say we are headed for average growth and no one particularly cares. Say we are nearing the next Great Depression and you will get on TV. But mention that good times are ahead, or markets have room to run, or that a company has huge potential. And a common reaction from commentators and spectators alike is that you are either a salesman or comically aloof of risks. The investing newsletter industry has known this for years and is now populated by prophets of doom, despite operating in an environment where the stock market has gone up to 17,000 fold in the last century, including dividends. This is true beyond finance. Matt Wrigley wrote in his book The Rational Optimist, a constant drumbeat of pessimism usually drowns out any triumphalist song. If you say the world has been getting better, you may get away with being called naive and insensitive. If you say the world is going to go on getting better, you are considered embarrassingly mad. If, on the other hand, you say catastrophe is imminent, you may expect a MacArthur Genius Award or even the Nobel Peace Prize. In my own adult lifetime, the fashionable reasons for pessimism changed, but the pessimist was constant. Every group of people I ask thinks the world is more frightening, more violent, and more hopeless. In short, more dramatic than it really is. Than Hans Rosling wrote in his book Factfulness. When you realize how much progress humans can make during a lifetime in everything from growth to medical breakthroughs to stock market gains to social equality, you would think optimism would gain more attention than pessimism. And yet, the intellectual allure of pessimism have been known for ages. John Stuart Mill wrote in the 1840s, I have observed that not the man who hopes when the others despair, but the man who despairs when others hope is admired by a large class of persons as a sage. The question is why? Why? How does it impact the way we think about money? Now let's get into it. Let's repeat the premise that no one is crazy. There are valid reasons why pessimism is seductive when dealing with money. It just helps to know that they are to ensure we don't take them too far. Part of it is instinctual and unavoidable. Kahneman says the asymmetric aversion to loss is an evolutionary shield. He writes, when directly compared or weighted against each other, losses loom larger than gains. The asymmetry between the power of positive and negative expectations or experiences has an evolutionary history. Organisms that treat threats as more urgent than opportunities have a better chance to survive and reproduce. But a few other things make financial pessimism easy, common, and more persuasive than optimism. One is that money is ubiquitous, so something bad happening tends to affect everyone and captures everyone's attention. That isn't true of, say, weather. A hurricane barreling down on Florida poses no direct risk to 92% of Americans, but a recession barreling down on the economy could impact every single person, including you. So pay attention. This goes for something as specific as the stock market. More than half of all American households directly own stocks. Even among those that don't, the stock market's gyrations are promoted so heavily in the media that the Dow Jones Industrial Average might be stockless household most watched economic barometer. Stocks rising 1% might be briefly mentioned in the evening news, but 1% fall will be reported in bold all caps letters and written in blood red. The asymmetry is hard to avoid. And why few questions or try to explain why the market went up? Isn't it supposed to go up? There is almost always an attempt to explain why it went down. Are investors worried about economic growth? Did the Fed screw things up again? Are politicians making bad decisions? Is there another shoe to drop? Narratives about why a decline occurred makes them easier to talk about, worry about, and frame a story around what you think will happen next. Usually more of the same. Even if you don't own stocks, those kind of things will grab your attention. Only 2.5% of Americans owned stocks on the eve of the Great Crash of 1929 that sparked the Great Depression. But the majority of Americans, if not the world, watched in amazement as the market collapsed, wondering what it signaled about their own fate. This was true whether you were a lawyer or a farmer or a car mechanic. Historian Eric writes, this fall in value immediately afflicted only a few Americans, but so closely had the others watched the market and regarded it as an index of their fate that they suddenly stopped much of their economic activity. As the economist Joseph later wrote, people felt that the ground under their feet was going away. There are two topics that will affect your life, whether you are interested in them or not. I know it. We've read this particular sentence, like this same sentence, we've read it before. Health and money. Let me see. Yes, money and health. While health issues tend to be individual, money isn't. Money issues are more systemic. In a connected system where one person's decision can affect everyone else, it is understandable why financial risk gain a spotlight and capture attention in a way few other topics can. Another is that pessimists often extrapolate present trends without accounting for how markets adapt. In 2008, environmentalist Lester Brown wrote, by 2030, China would need 98 million barrels of oil a day. The world is currently producing 85 million barrels a day, and we never produce much more than that. There go the world oil reserves. He is right. The world would run out of oil in that scenario, but that's not how markets works. There is an iron law in economics. Extremely good and extremely bad circumstances rarely stay that way for long because supply and demand adapt in hard to predict ways. Consider what happened to oil immediately after Brown's prediction. Oil prices surged in 2008 as growing global demand, much of it from China, crept up to the potential output. A barrel of oil sold for $20 in 2001 and $138 by 2008. The new price meant drilling oil was like pulling gold out of the ground. The incentives for oil producers changed dramatically. Add to tap oil, supplies that weren't worth the fight at $20 a barrel. The cost of drilling didn't offset the price you could sell it for. Became the bonanza of a lifetime now that you could sell a barrel for $138. That sparked a surge of new fracking and horizontal drilling technologies. The Earth has had roughly the same amount of oil reserves for all of human history, and we've known where the big oil deposits are for some time. What changes is the technology we have that lets us economically pull the stuff out of the ground. Oil historian Daniel Yejun writes, 86% of oil reserves in the United States are the result not of what is estimated at time of discovery, but of the revisions that come when our technology improves. That's what happened as tracking took off in 2008. In the United States, oil production went from roughly 5 million barrels per day in 2008 to 13 million by 2019. World oil production is now over 100 million barrels per day, some 20% above what Brown assumed was the high mark. So a pessimist extrapolating oil trends in 2008, of course, things look bad. To a realist who understood that necessity is the mother of all invention, it was far less scary. Assuming that something ugly will still ugly is an easy forecast to make. And it is persuasive because it doesn't require imagining the world changing, but problems correct and people adapt. Direct incentive solution is equal magnitude. That's a common plot of economic history that is too easily forgotten by pessimists who forecast in straight lines. A third is that progress happens too slowly to notice, but setbacks happen too quickly to ignore. Which is why they say what you've built for 100 years can be ruined in 2 minutes. So honestly, setbacks happen too quickly to ignore. There are lots of overnight strategies. There are rarely overnight miracles. On January 5th, 1889, the Detroit Free Press pushed back against the long-held dream that man could one day fly like a bird, airplanes. The paper routes appear impossible. The smallest possible weight of a flying machine with the necessary fuel and engineer could not be less than 300 or 400 pounds. But there is a low limit of weight, certainly not much beyond 50 pounds, beyond which it is impossible for an animal to fly. Nature has reached this limit and with her utmost effort has failed to pass it. 6 months later, Orville Wright dropped out of high school to help his brother Wilbur tinker in their background shed to build a printing press. It was the brothers' first joint invention. It would not be their last. If you had to make a list of the most important inventions of the 20th century, the airplane would be at least top 5, if not number 1. The airplane changed everything. It started world wars, it ended world wars, it connected the world, bridging gaps between cities and rural communities, oceans and countries. But the story of the Wright brothers' quest to build the first plane has a fascinating twist. After they conquered flight, no one seemed to notice. Nobody seemed to care. In his 1952 book on American history, Frederick Lewis Allen wrote, several years went by before the public grasped what the Wrights were doing. People were so convinced that flying was impossible that most of those who started flying about Dayton, that's Ohio, in 1905 decided what they had seen must have been some trick without significance, somewhat as most people today would regard as demonstration of, say, telepathy. It was not until May 1908, nearly 4.5 years after the Wright first flight, that experienced reporters were sent to observe what they were doing. Experienced editors gave full credence to those reporters' cited dispatches, and the world at last woke up to the fact that human flight had been successfully accomplished. Even after people caught on to the plane's weather, they underestimated it for years. First, it was seen mainly as a military weapon, then a rich person's toy, then perhaps used to transport a few people. The Washington Post wrote in 1909, there will never be such a thing as commercial era freighters. Freight will continue to drive its slow weight across the patient's heart. The first cargo plane took off 5 months later. Now compare that slow, years-long awakening to becoming optimistic about the airplane to how quickly people pay attention to drivers of pessimism, like a corporate bankruptcy or a major war or a plane crash. Some of the first mentions of the Wright plane came in 1908 when an army lieutenant named Thomas Selfridge was killed during a demonstration flight. Growth is driven by compounding, which always takes time. Destruction is driven by single points of failure, which can happen in seconds, and loss of confidence, which can happen in an instant. It is easier to create a narrative around pessimism because the story pieces tend to be faster, fresher, and more recent. Optimistic narratives require looking at a long stretch of history and development, which people tend to forget and take more effort to piece together. Consider the progress of medicine. Looking at the last year will do you a little good. Any single decade won't do much better, but looking at the last 50 years will show something extraordinary. For example, the age-adjusted death rate per capita has declined more than 70% since 1965. According to the National Institute of Health, a 70% decline in heart disease deaths is enough to save something like 500,000 American lives per year. Picture the population of Atlanta saved every year. But since the progress happens so slowly, it captures less attention than quick, sudden losses like terrorism, plane crashes, or natural disasters. We could have a hurricane like Katrina 5 times a week, every week. Imagine how much attention that would receive, and it would not offset the number of annual lives saved by the decline in heart disease in the last 50 years. This same thing applies to business, where it takes years to realize how important a product or company is, but failures can happen overnight. And in stock markets, where a 40% decline that takes place in 6 months will draw congressional investigations, but a 140% gain that takes place over 6 years can go virtually unnoticed. And in careers, where reputation takes a lifetime to build and a single email to destroy. The short sting of pessimism prevails while the powerful pull of optimism goes unnoticed. This underscores an important point made previously in this book. In investing, you must identify the price of success, volatility, and loss amid the long backdrop of growth and be willingly to pay it. You must identify the price of success and be willingly to pay it. Find the price and pay it. So that is what we'll be rounding up for today. I hope you've learned something. So see you all at our next reading. Oh, We are done. Let me just finish this chapter. In 2004, the New York Times interviewed Stephen Hawking, the scientist whose incurable motor neuron disease left him paralyzed and unable to talk at age 21. Through his computer, Hawking told the interviewer how excited he was to sell books to lay people. Are you always this cheerful? The Times asked. My expectations were reduced to zero when I was 21. Everything since then has been a bonus. He replied. Expecting things to be great means a best case scenario that feels flat. Pessimism reduces expectations, narrowing the gap between possible outcomes and outcomes you feel great about. Maybe that's why it is so seductive. Expecting things to be bad is the best way to be pleasantly surprised when they are not, which ironically is something to be optimistic about. Now, a short story about stories. See you all at our next video. Be good, stay good, bye.